Hello everyone, the iTunes family back here again. Today I'm going to be living with iOS 9 for a week. Or for the next week I'm going to be living with iOS 9 for a week, but I'm doing this in collaboration with another YouTuber named Tag Pairs, who will link his social media down in the description. But yeah, so the devices I will be using for this are an iPad 2 running iOS 9.3.5 and an iPhone 4S running iOS 9.3.6, because I unfortunately don't have any better devices. I have an iPad 3 that I can also use, but I'm not going to use that just because the iPad 2 is faster. And so, yeah, so I haven't gotten any apps on my iPhone 4S yet. I've just signed into basic stuff, but I have all my apps already on my iPad 2. I just haven't signed into them. So this is pretty much how my layout is on my iPad. On my other iPads, and I have not gotten any apps on this 4S, like I said. So I will be using these devices as my everyday devices. Now you may be wondering what I'll do about the cell service, about cell calls and text messages, because of the 3G shutdown. Because obviously, in case you can't tell, I'm an accent, I'm in the US. And luckily, my mom hasn't hooked up my phone yet, my main phone yet, which is an iPhone 11 Pro Max. So I don't necessarily need to have cell service. And I will still be recording with my iPhone 11 Pro Max for all my videos, just because obviously for this video I have to. And I can't exactly decrease quality, my video quality, on a couple of videos based off of what I planned, just for living with us for us for a week. And even so, the camera on the 4S I know is not that great. And I know the 4S cannot edit videos, whereas my iPhone 11 Pro Max can. So that's just to let you guys know about that. So I will be doing one update every single day. And the iPad 2 will be in the case. The iPhone 4S will not be. But I do have a cheap little case right here for my 4S that came with one of my phones. I don't have another case that isn't deteriorated, so yeah. And yeah. Alright, so it is the end of Monday, February 28th. I am so glad for February to be over because I'm excited for March. I'm excited for better weather. So yeah, so first of all, I'm going to talk about what apps I found to work and what apps I found not to work. So Instagram, YouTube Studio, and Dual Jump all work fine without any issues. Twitter works, though sometimes it does suggest that you need to update, though that they can easily dismiss that message. Google Slides, Google Drive, and Google Docs all work fine, which is funny because I did a video back in August 2020 when I was seeing if iOS 9 was still usable back then. And funny enough, Google Slides came up with a message saying that it was about to go out of support, and yet funny for iOS 9, funny enough, it's not there. It hasn't yet, and it's 2022 now. But at least the time I'm recording this video, I'm actually taking notes on my iPad 2, which I have more apps on, which is why you might not see as many apps that I'm talking about. The YouTube app does not work on iOS 9 anymore because if I open it, it just gives this error loading. And so yeah, so that's overall what works and what doesn't. I haven't tested iMessage yet because I haven't needed it, but I will test that when that comes. So though you can connect AirPods with iOS 9 devices, because AirPods didn't come out until iOS 10 came out, they just don't have, iOS 9 devices just don't support all the cool features that AirPods have, like Siri, instant pairing mostly. And it's so annoying because this makes AirPods the buggy basic crappy Bluetooth earbuds, which is not cool. And the iOS keyboard also is actually pretty bad on iOS 9 because it lacks two essential features that I use pretty often. The first is where I can hold down the space bar and move it around. And move it around on whatever you're typing. And the second is being able to pull down keys to get more character options without having to go into another menu or pressing shift. I will miss these features over the course of the week. And next up, iOS 9 on the iPhone 4S and the iPad 2 is as slow as you've heard. Like a $200 laptop, though, they may look fast in the showroom. Once you begin using them, they really show their age because they're the oldest Apple devices to support iOS 9. If you have like a newer device like an iPhone 6s or an iPad Pro 7-inch iOS 9, then that would obviously be very different. The iPad 2 isn't as slow as the iPad 3, but third generation, but it sure isn't fast. And both of these devices, even when doing basic tasks, I've found to get extremely hot, like MacBook hot, when doing extremely simple tasks or even just charging, which is unbelievable. iOS 9 has also taken a pretty big toll on my iPhone 4S's battery life. Not so much on my iPad 2 because its battery is bigger, but it has sure taken a toll on my iPhone 4S's battery because I was just charging it early. I charged it right before I started recording this. But from when I got up in the morning, which by the way, I didn't have school today, so I obviously got up later than I normally do. From then until then, and I don't use my phone that much. The battery drained around 25% from light use. My iPhone 11 Pro Max, which is my current main phone, does not drain nearly that fast. My iPhone 8 Plus, which was my previous main phone, never drained that fast. My iPhone 5S, which has battery problems, which is my main phone before that, also never drained that quickly. And my 5C, which is my main phone before that even, and my iPod Touch 5 and so on, of my main devices before this, they never drained that quickly. Now, I'm sure this is probably linked to my iPhone's age, the iPhone 4S being 11 years old also, and not just an iOS 9 thing, but iOS 9 sure is probably taking a pretty big toll on the battery. So yeah, that's it for Monday. I will see you tomorrow. Hello, Roy. Sorry for my dad talking in the background. He is currently on a phone call, but yeah, so today while I used my iPhone, iPhone 4S and iPad 2 before we're checking Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and YouTube Studio. Well, that's something that I mainly did on my iPad 2, but yeah, so that's basically what I've been doing. I did have to use my MacBook today because unlike yesterday, I do have school day for the rest of the week, so I'll still have to use my MacBook because it's not really iOS, and even so, I can't afford to do that just for school. So it turns out the AirPods do actually support instant pairing, but I have to disconnect them whenever I connect them to more modern Apple devices. I had to do when I was editing the video I made today. My iPad 2 also peculiar rename them to say Find My at the end, so I'll have to obviously rename that once the week is over. And a cool Easter egg I discovered in iOS 9 is that whenever your alarm goes off, you have to slide it to turn it off. In iOS 10 and higher, of course, whenever your alarm goes off, you get the snooze and stop buttons, which you have to press. I've accidentally pressed the snooze button because of this many times. If if you're watching this video, please bring this back to iOS 16. An irritating part of iOS 9 on 32-bit devices, which I'm obviously using, is that there's no night shift, because it was only on 64-bit devices, which is kind of irritating, because with a jailbreak, I was able to get f.locks, which basically does the same thing working on my iPad 1, and though I could jailbreak my iPhone 4S and iPad 2, that technically be cheating. Even so, f.locks only works on iOS 5 through 8, so yeah. Why didn't Apple allow that? Why give these devices iOS 9, not give them night shift, one of the main features? That's pretty annoying. And I tested iMessage, which works just fine. And the YouTube app website on iOS 9 does work, but it's extremely buggy because autoplay is automatically turned on, which drives me nuts because there's no way to turn it off because it's too old. And it's also very buggy too. So that is Tuesday, March 1st. I will be back on Wednesday, March the 2nd. So it's currently 10:11 p.m. on Wednesday, March the 2nd, which would have been Dr. Seuss's 118th birthday. So even though I know you're not going to be watching it on this day probably, I just want to tell you a couple facts about him. That number one, before he was an author, he was actually a lieutenant in World War II, and that he actually wrote cartoons about it, and it was published in another book that was not written by Dr. Seuss, so I thought I'd get that out of the way. But overall, I haven't used my devices a whole lot today because I've been really busy. I've obviously had lots of schoolwork to do today, which I did on my MacBook, obviously. I've done on my... I went to the dentist today, and I took this phone with me, which I do kind of like, having a smaller phone to take with me. Because previously, when I last went to the dentist back in August, that was back when I was still using my iPhone 8 Plus. I had to have my dad hold it for me while I had my teeth cleaned. But this time I could just put my 4S in my pocket, which I did like. I've also found the iPad 2's battery not to be bad, so I can definitely say it's just this phone that does not have a good battery. The only thing that I have found a way to actually get autoplay to be turned off on YouTube. Not permanently, but yeah, I have figured out a way to do that. So yeah, I've been pretty busy today, so I haven't used my devices a whole lot, but that is Wednesday, and I will see you tomorrow. Hello, everybody. It's currently 10:13 p.m. on Thursday, March the 3rd. So, nothing really new. The only thing that's really been... So, I've just been checking social media and watching YouTube and such on my iPhone 4S and iPad 2 on iOS 9 today. I obviously use my iPhone 4S for alarms like I do my main phone. And the only thing that was really unusual today was that YouTube just suddenly started to crash on my iPad 2. So that was a little strange, but other than that, there's nothing else really new. That is the end of Thursday, and I will see you all tomorrow on Friday. Alright, everybody, it is currently 9:59 p.m. on Friday, March the 4th. And so far, I've mostly used my iPhone as a TV remote and as an alarm today. I haven't actually used I've been using my iPad 2 a lot more because I didn't have as much schoolwork. And when I was using my iPad 2, what I did was I just used it for YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube Studio. And the only thing was that YouTube kept crashing today, of course. And Twitter crashed once, and then the whole thing crashed, so I had to reboot it. And now it seems to be working fine without any issues, so, Oh well, that's the end of Friday, and I'll see you tomorrow. Alright, everyone, it's currently 10:09 p.m. on Saturday, March the 5th. And so far, nothing really interesting happened with my devices today. I just use them for checking social media, watching YouTube, etc. Nothing really interesting has happened, so I will see you tomorrow for the final verdict on iOS 9. Alright, so it's finally 8:23 p.m. on Sunday, March the 6th, the end of the week, so now it's time for my final verdict of iOS 9. So, sorry, my Stormy is bickering with one of my other cats, like always. So there are two cool things that I've realized about iOS 9, or one really cool thing, one is just not so cool, is that you can actually go into Instagram right here, like it will work just fine. But if you try to do the search thing, it won't load, but everything else loads. But I failed to post something on Instagram, so once, so that's a little weird. But yeah. And the other cool thing is that because, well, you can still do this on modern devices too, but I've had to resort to going to the web browser because, as you all know, the YouTube app on iOS 9 does not work anymore. Well, if I load it, you'll see that it doesn't work. Yep, error loading, tap to retry. So I've hence had to go to the web browser, but I've discovered that because in the web browser and Safari, it plays through the video. If you go in full screen, the videos switches back to the QuickTime default mode, meaning that you can actually skip through ads, just without paying for YouTube Premium, which I thought was pretty neat. So yeah. Other than that, now it's time for the final question. Can you use iOS 9 in 2022, 7 years after its original release? I'm going to say probably not. And the reason why isn't actually because the apps. Most of the apps I've tried work just fine except for YouTube. And of course, Google loves to make their apps obviously on iOS. Gee, I wonder why. Oh well. But the actual limitation is the hardware because the devices that run a maximum version of iOS 9 are the iPhone 4S, the iPod Touch 5, the iPad Mini 1, the iPad 2, and the iPad 3rd generation. And I actually was going to nightshade my iPhone 5 to iOS 9 to use that for a week, but that did not work out, so I had to switch to my 4S. But the devices that run a maximum version of iOS 9 are just so slow. Like YouTube, you saw how long that took to open. And then if you try to find a more modern device on iOS 9, like let's say an iPhone 6, 6S, 5, 5S, you're going to have a lot of bad luck because those are really rare. And also 64-bit iPhones on iOS 9 have a bit of an issue of activation where they just won't activate. That isn't with everyone, but that's common. And another issue is that you can't use 32-bit iPhones that, even if they are running iOS 9, you won't be able to use them on cellular anymore, at least in the US, because of the 3G shutdown, which is just perfect. So yeah, overall, you should not be using iOS 9 in 2022. You should just be moving on to a newer iOS version. But I'm curious, do you guys have any other gadgets or operating systems that you'd like me to switch to for a week? Please let me know in the comments. As always, this is the iTunes Fanboy, and peace out.